It's holy hip-hop. The Crusaders Ministries are on a mission, and they're in action this Saturday. Find out what it's all about coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on an upcoming CD release party to be held this Saturday at 6 o'clock at Christ United Methodist Church. And we're visiting with Brian Shannon, the oldest member of the group, Crusaders. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Glad to be here.
So exciting to get you in and to think we're this close, like 72 hours, a little more than that from this is your first CD release?
First CD release. And we're really excited about this particular CD based on, just the anticipation of what it's going to mean to our community, what it's going to mean to the world of hip-hop music, and what it means to us personally to be able to get the message that we're trying to get through this CD and to our market of kids, which is this generation of youth.
Oh, yeah. And 4 members in the group. That's so exciting. It was thrilling this morning, reading a little bit about it. 2 pairs of brothers.
Right. That's exactly right. My brother, who's my younger brother, he's Todd Shannon, and he goes by the name of Wisdom in the group. And we'll talk a little bit about how we choose names and why we choose the names we choose, particularly with hip hop music and how that goes. But Wisdom is Todd Shannon, and there's 2 other brothers, another set of brothers, Dale and Ricky Gilliard. Ricky is currently graduating from the Citadel this particular semester, and so he's up there in Charleston finishing up school.
Right.
And Dale is his younger brother who just graduated high school and is attending Horry Georgetown Tech.
Great. Real quick about yourself, Brian. Are you originally from the area?
I am actually a native of Brooklyn, New York City.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Myrtle Beach in 1989, 1990, and I actually went to middle school in the Sox City area and finished out my high school years at Sox City High School, where I played 4 years of basketball for Coach Dan D'Antoni.
Is that right?
Yeah. So little known fact, I actually played 4 years at the Beach Ball Classic here, which is a big event that goes on every year here. Everybody knows about. And I won a slam dunk championship.
Oh, come on!
And at the Beach Ball Classic in 1994, and was a pretty accomplished athlete in the area.
And you won it in competing against some of these guys from all over the country.
Actually, that year that we played, our first game we played against a team that Tim Thomas played for in high school. Well, it was actually we played against Tim. I played against Tim Thomas, who's actually playing in the NBA now, making millions of dollars. And the second game we played in that particular tournament, we played against Vince Carter.
Oh, come on!
From mainland Florida, and I played against Antoine Jameson. That very next game we played. So that tournament had an opportunity to play against 3 guys who are now making big bucks playing basketball. And now I'm here. I'm a school teacher in Horry County,
huge,
which is still big.
Absolutely.
And I'm very proud of that.
The most exciting. Think about that aspect. Were all those guys competing against you in that slam dunk contest?
Actually, Vince Carter was supposed to be in that particular dunk contest, but he hurt his wrist.
Likely story. Yeah.
And so, needless to say, I won. I might have come in second to him. Who knows? But I ended up winning.
That is huge, Ryan. Congratulations. Back in 94, so a little more than a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been here about 15 years.
Been about 15 years.
You still have family in the area. Obviously, your brother's here.
Right. My brother's in the area. We're both graduates of Coastal Carolina University.
Right.
So we're living in the area now. I have family in the Georgetown, Horry County area.
Sure.
So that's my family is native to that area.
Okay.
Like I said, I moved here in the late 80s, early 90s.
Sure. Go ahead and share with the viewers how y'all got the group set up, Brian. When did y'all go about setting up Crusaders?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of our group. Well, I was always, encompassed within hip-hop culture as we sort of, know it now in the media and the culture at large. We look at hip-hop as a very major, major money-making industry right now.
Right.
It has a lot of things, a lot of negative stigmatism that's sort of, connected to it at points. But there has been some positive things about hip hop as well over the years. But we, having grown up in the hip hop culture, growing up in the inner city areas, growing up in areas, environments that were definitely urban, and hip hop music was something that was largely, hugely connected to my generation. And also growing up in the church. In my later teen years, my mom always kept us in church, my brother and I have a sister. She kept us in the church, and I really wasn't interested in church very much, but I was searching for something that I could sort of express what I'd grown up to learn about the Bible and God, and then having accepted a personal relationship with Jesus Christ at a point in my life. I said, hey, I'm looking for a way to share that with a generation that might not be so privy to a lot of what goes on in churches, so to speak. But we decided to come together, my brother and I, after hearing a group out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania called the Cross Movement. They're actually an independent record label and a rap group, Christian hip hop. And we were so impressed and taken back by what they did. I actually saw a video one morning, and I saw these six young gentlemen who are now 4. They've sort of gone through some changes and different things, but they were 6 at the time, and we saw what they did is so powerful and such a good way to reach young people in the culture of hip hop with the message of Christianity and the message that's promoted through the Bible. I said, wow, it was so powerful. I was taken back by it. So we decided to say, hey, let's see if we can, having that background, that same background and knowledge of hip hop culture, let's see if we can sort of do the same thing and sort of dig back into the culture and go back into it and really try to be, with a degree of relevance, reach some of the kids.
That's fantastic. Right in the beginning, have you begun to feel you're making a difference? I mean, begun to see some of the work taking effect?
Well, in the beginning, we just sort of started out with a dollar and a dream, as some people say, it started out where we were very started out very slow. We just sort of started listening to some of the music in the genre because the genre was fairly new. Like I said, at one point became a Christian in my late teen years and through my college years. Didn't really have a lot of music that was sort of characteristic of my generation that was Christian, and I was searching for that. And at that point, when I was, there are a lot of contemporary Christian groups out now, and different types of genres of Christian music that are now more appealing to this generation. But what I began to do was to sort of collect and gather, more of it and learn about how it could be effective. I was at a point where I didn't really know how effective it could be until we actually, started making our own music and listening to what was going on, and then trying to, put something into play there. Actually, one of our first shows we did in Charlotte for a youth group, and we got such a rave review, and was told that it was so effective that we were encouraged by that very first experience to really build on it.
Wow, Brian, now y'all were using the Crusaders name then.
Then, yes.
And it was the same 4 guys?
Same 4 guys.
Is that right? How long ago was that?
That was in 1999.
Oh, come on. Y'all have been together for more than 5 years?
More than 5 years. More than 5 years.
Son of a gun.
So it started out really slow at first. Like I said, we just had a vision to really just do something to get out there. Actually, the first time we got together and talked about it, we said, hey, man, let's come up with a way that we can reach kids. Let's look at look at a marketing strategy, how we can sort of get the gospel out there. We were going to Sunday school, going to church, and going to Bible studies, and we're saying, how can we broaden our appeal to get to some kids in areas that really won't come to our church? So how can we broaden our appeal? They're tuned into the MTV culture, the BET culture, and which sort of promotes hip hop music through everything. And so we're saying, hey, the scripture teaches us, there's a Bible scripture, the Apostle Paul said, that he became all things to all men so that by all possible means he could win some. So we said, well, at first, we faced a little bit of resistance from an older generation of people in the church because it was more contemporary than their taste. But after having some time to sort of introduce it properly to them, we received more of a warm welcome in our church community, and after showing the effectiveness, and we've had kids who've committed their lives to Jesus Christ, and we've done evangelistic outreaches in inner city areas and project areas, lower income housing areas, and not only that, but we recently did last year a community event called the Youth Fest in Tabor City, which is a youth event that goes on after the Yam Festival, and it's it was a crowd who was untypically hip hop, what we thought at first, but it was several hundred kids, and they responded so well to what we did that they invited us back for next year, and and they bought a ton of CDs, and they really dug what starting to dig what we were doing.
Speaking of CDs, and obviously the release party being this Saturday, if a viewer needs to get off to work now or get off to school, obviously, and I know in a little bit you're going to have to be running out to get off to school, what is the best number for someone to call? Obviously, the best number is for someone to call about the CD release party this Saturday.
The best number that to call concerning that event would be area code 843-446-9491, and that's my number. You can ask for Brian, and I am Zion of the group. But that event is this Saturday, April 2nd, at Christ United Methodist Church. Or you can also go to our website and learn more about the event, and that's www.crusaders.com, spelled CRUZAIDERS, which is a play on the word Crusaders, but we spell it Crusaders. You can go to our website and learn more about the event. There's directions there, as well as that number that I gave. You can ask for more information concerning it. It's a free concert. Everybody's welcome. Capacity seating up to 2,500, so everybody's welcome. We're encouraging the whole community to come out and experience this alternative to the hip-hop music that's out there. We're offering an alternative to the youth of our community.
That's fantastic, Brian. 843-446-9491. And the great thing is it's free. I think you said the doors open at 5:30.
Doors open at 5:30.
So if folks are there around that time, they can get preferred seating or get great seating there.
That's right.
You said 2,500 folks.
Up to 2,500 folks. That's, that church, Christ United Methodist, which is right across from Medieval Times, used to be, I believe, the Crook and Chase Theater.
That's
so,
right.
They were so gracious, and we want to say a thank you to them and Pastor Jeff Dunn and the Christ United Methodist Church family and staff for extending, their open arms to let us use their facility, which is a great one, to hold that concert. Is going to be great.
This Saturday, April 2nd.
Yes.
What a great date. And of course, and you said y'all were at the after the Yam Festival, the event there in Tabor City.
Right.
You were selling you were selling CDs, is that right? Was that this CD?
No, well, actually, what we had was a sort of like a single. We released a single.
Right.
The title of the album is No Better Life. And that, it's pretty much self-explanatory. We're sort of advertising the life of the Christian alternative lifestyle. And so what we had was a single that we released before our actual official CD, a single which was entitled, the No Better Life single, which had 2 songs, and people really responded to it well, and we got a lot of good radio. We got a good fair amount of radio play on the local gospel stations. Gospel 1330, if you tune in there, I believe it's 3:30 after kids get out of school. They're usually playing our songs, so we're getting good rotation on the gospel stations. Really trying to infiltrate a lot of the other larger radio stations as well.
Sure. Now, of course, the desire is to get into the mainstream. On mainstream radio stations. What would be the distancing factor for them? Is it because it's Christian hip hop? Is that why they would potentially be reluctant? Right,
and that's a good question, Greg. Because oftentimes when it's ironic. Oftentimes I look at a lot of what's promoted through the mainstream hip hop music, and and oftentimes, there are things that are a little less than desirable. When we talk about what we would like our kids, what type of messages would we like our kids to sort of ingest on a daily basis.
Right.
And we would agree that a lot of the hip hop music that's sort of pushed out there does not promote the best messages. But oftentimes those are the music, those are the songs that have the big time marketing and the backing that get into mainstream, that are in the mainstream, and is pretty much the flavor of the culture at large. But oftentimes when you come with something that's an alternative, even if it's just as good, on a quality level, a production level, even if it's just as good, oftentimes if your message is not popular, then you don't oftentimes get the airplay that you desire.
Right. So it could be, of course, if the station's heard about you, do you know if you've had a chance to get to the programming directors, let's say?
We've started a lot of efforts, with the radio stations, just 98.5,
right, of course,
and some other radio stations. There's some big stations in Columbia who are now embracing a lot of their major, and I think Myrtle Beach, as of yet, does not have the large gospel music following that it will have in the future, and I'm sure it will, but it doesn't really have it now the way on the scale that many of the stations in Columbia and Charleston, right, that have. And actually, this music has been coined as holy hip hop music, and they actually have holy hip hop shows in which they play our music, and play the genre on a regular basis. So right now, Myrtle Beach is sort of, what we're doing is sort of pioneering this effort in our area to really get people privy to what we're doing and sort of acclimating everyone to what holy hip hop is.
That is tremendous, Brian. You've got to be thrilled about that. I mean, when you think back to early on with the band from Philadelphia down, and obviously getting used to that.
Right.
Albeit they've changed the size of the band a little bit, there's still holy hip hop.
Yes, and actually at the concert, at our release concert, we actually, one of the artists of the Cross Movement is going to be there. He's going to open the event. So he's right now one of the larger holy hip hop artists around the country right now, doing major tours, and we had a chance to open for them for the Cross Movement, which was, like I said, ironic. The band that got us started, we had a chance to open for them and meet them. They're very down to earth guys, really about the work of ministry. Most of them are they're seminary degreed young gentlemen our age, so they're really influential in our generation and really trailblazing a major movement.
You and your brother and the other two members of the group are about the same age?
Yes, we're all just about the same age. My brother is 2 years younger than myself.
Right.
And the other set of brothers, one, like I said, having just graduated high school less than about a year ago.
Sure.
And the other getting ready to graduate from the Citadel. So we're all mid-20s, late 20s, around that age.
Great, which is a great way to extend out. It is so important to reach youth. We think about the Luis Palau Festival here a couple of years ago, and how spectacular that kind of turnout at Broadway at the Beach, folks who traveled from everywhere, all over the Carolinas, to be in for that event. And, of course, in the same way, what would be the prime reason that one of our viewers from Lumberton or Laurinburg or our viewers in Hartsville or throughout the PD would want to make a trip this Saturday to get out for the show?
Well, one of the reasons I would say definitely is, if your children or if you have grandchildren who are affected by the themes that are promoted in the culture at large that are, that are less than desirable, that, things that we know that, if we look at, oftentimes we're looking at television shows that we're saying, wow, I really would, I'd really like to turn that. I really wouldn't want to expose my children to that. Or there's some music out there that I really want to expose my children to, but the kids are plugging into that type of music. The kids are plugging into mainstream hip hop, and we know that oftentimes hip hop, right now getting a bad rap in the media. There's a lot of artists out there in the mainstream hip hop industry that are, and getting bad press for, court cases and things and criminal charges. And not to say that all of them are, but there's an awful deal going on with the violence that oftentimes that is associated with it. So what we're doing is saying, listen, if you have kids or children, grandchildren that are in any way affected by MTV culture, which 99.9% of the time they are, affected by BET culture, 99.9% of the times they are, then you want to expose them to this alternative, to a music that is characteristic and relevant to them, but yet brings them something that's good for them.
And how should Grandma explain it to her grandson of what we're doing this Saturday? We're traveling down to a church. We're going to do they even need to say it's a church? We're going down to a show, a hip-hop show. I mean, do they want to tell the grandson that it's holy hip-hop? Or what's the best way for the grandmother or uncle or dad to encourage their child while we're heading down to Myrtle Beach from Lumberton, let's say?
Right. Well, one of the things that, we're putting out there, we never put on our flyer that it was a Christian event, but we do promote a Christian agenda, and it is going to be held at a church. And I would just say, listen, if you would tell your kids, hey, we're going to a hip hop concert that I would like for you to go to, and they'd be taken back by the mom. You want me to go to grandma? You want me to go to a hip hop concert? Wow, what's gotten into grandma? You getting hip? No, and the thing is that, well, this is hip hop with an alternative, and there's no mistaking that our agenda is definitely Christian.
So you want grandma to be there too?
I want grandma to be there too.
Right.
I've actually, and this is ironic. I was telling you about that Youth Fest event, and older, if I could say, older generation of people, who were not African American, they would come to us and say, listen, I can actually understand the words that you're saying. Your words, the words that you're speaking and concerning Jesus Christ and a hope for life. Man, it helped me. It's blessed me. It's done good for me, and I thank you and I appreciate what you've done. And those were not kids. These are grandparents that have come to us, and mothers and fathers that have told us that, listen, we appreciate what you're doing because it's needed, and we definitely are in need of an alternative.
Well, I'm glad you brought this copy of the disc, because last Wednesday our office manager, the Herald, put it on to let me hear it. a little ahead of time, and she said, I can understand all that. I could barely hear it. I was in a different office, and she was saying, I can understand everything. This is something my kids would love.
Right.
And that's not necessarily that they'd love it, but she would love for them to have it.
Exactly.
I mean, it was that mindset.
Exactly.
And so, of course, she ended up snagging the copy for the office there. So I'm glad you brought this in. But it's fascinating when you think of that opportunity to really make a difference and be able to reach older folks as well.
That's exactly right.
When we think about some of those mainstream artists, not the ones necessarily who have bad press or necessarily good press, who are some of those mainstream artists that any of our viewers be familiar with, or that many of our viewers be familiar with, that you want to potentially provide that alternative to them?
Right. Well, Greg, one of the things that I think in my conversation with you when we met, I told you that I am a teacher, and actually now I teach for a facility, a mental health facility, and a group home facility called Lighthouse Care Center of Conway. And most of the kids there, most of the kids that I've come in contact with in the school systems and facilities such as that, which we've gone into, not only work in, but I've gone into and we've done ministry for, the kids are in tune with artists such as Eminem. 50 Cent, artists like Jay-Z, artists like Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. So those are a lot of the artists. Usher Raymond. Those are artists. And when we talk about hip hop and rap music, hip hop is sort of the umbrella of the genre of the culture. Rap music is just one of the faces that goes along with hip hop. But hip hop encompasses a lot of what Destiny's Child does. A lot of groups such Missy Elliott. So there are a lot of groups out there, a lot of artists, and that a lot of the kids are in tune with.
Sure.
And just sadly to say, not mentioning any particular artists, but a lot of the themes are not those which a lot of grandparents would be proud to say, I would like my kids to listen to. And oftentimes looking at a lot of the programs that air videos and things and so forth, a lot of the content is definitely not what I'd like to raise my children on. So I feel it's that we have a responsibility to present this alternative.
How do y'all prep for a concert, Brian? How do y'all get ready for a show? Are y'all prepping all week? Are y'all planning things out? Are you visiting facilities? Like, obviously, this Saturday, you're here at Christ United Methodist Church. Next Saturday, I saw y'all are performing down in Charleston. On the 23rd, you're back, I think, at Christ United Methodist Church. The month of April, next month's going to be a nutso month for y'all. Right.
We're actually booked every weekend.
Wow.
In April. So the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're booked up, we're packed out. My wife wasn't too enthused about that. She wanted to go to the Magnolia Festival in Wilmington.
Right.
I think it was El Azalea Festival.
Yeah, Azalea Festival.
Which is going to be coming up. And I told her, honey, well, we booked. But, I told her I'd make it up next year. But, we're in preparation for concerts. Pretty much we're making contact with people in different areas.
Right.
People are contacting us based on areas that we've been in. We've been in Tabor City 3 times at this point since our first meeting there, since our first time doing a show there. And so what we spend our time doing in between the week while we're still working, because I still have a 9 to 5 like everyone else.
Sure.
And, what we're doing is I'm taking calls, and I'm sort of doing all of the booking management myself at this point, and a lot of the executive work for the group, and managing the website, taking emails, and sort of setting up shows and doing a calendar.
Brian, if our viewers come down this Saturday, arrive around 5:30, get in there, what's the performance going to be like? How long is it going to be? How long can they expect to be there? Is there an intermission? I mean, what's a performance like, a typical performance for this CD release party? This is a huge event this Saturday night.
Right. Well, we're actually going to have, is not only going to, we're going to be releasing our CD, so it's going to be spotlight on Crusaders music.
Right.
But like I said earlier, we got Truth of Cross Movement Records, who's going to be there. He's going to be opening in the event. We have another local group of artists, well, not local, but from the Low Country, from Charleston, the Charleston area. They're called Three of His Kind, and they're going to be sort of opening with a small music set. So what you're going to see is sort of a conglomerate, or sort of like a cluster of a few different groups. And there's another solo artist who, at this point, his name goes by the name of Zion, and he's from Savannah, Georgia, and he's possibly going to be there. We received word that he might not be able to make it. So what you may see is still 2 or 3 different groups, and doing smaller, different sets before we actually come out and do our set, which is about an hour. And we sort of, mix in with our music set some speaking. We definitely elaborate. We elaborate on the issue at hand that we're trying to trying to get across and address, which is the life, the life of Jesus Christ that we're trying to portray through our music, and as it pertains to us in this generation.
How invaluable. Obviously, that crosses all ages and all races and all sexes. And really makes a difference on a daily basis. That's
Right.
fantastic. That's very exciting. Brian, you think about, obviously, performances and that opportunity to speak. When you think about your own personal relationship with Christ, when you all got together one-on-one and you made that commitment, can you share with viewers what that was like?
Sure. And that's always the best thing that one of the greatest things that I could ever share is how I personally, and that's one of the first things that I start with our shows. As we get into it, I tell kids about how I personally came into a relationship with Jesus Christ. And actually, ironically, I came into a relationship with Jesus Christ as a catalyst. I was listening to a contemporary group by the name of Commissioned, and they were singing, and it was a contemporary. They were as contemporary at the time as any other Christian group was, and a song just simply related the beauty of a relationship with Jesus Christ to me in a way that I'd never heard it, and I said, "Wow!" I was so taken back by that. I was inspired, and so when I actually, at age 17, I was a senior in high school, and so I tell people the cross is for all ages, all races, all backgrounds. Having grown up in the inner city area, having grown up in a single-parent home, having grown up in substandard housing, growing up in areas of violence and drug-infested areas, there was a beacon of hope and light in the music that I was exposed to. So one of the first things I came in contact with was a song that presented Jesus Christ, and it became personal to me.
Wow, those are great words. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Brian Shannon coming up next. (843-446-9491). The show is this Saturday night, 5:30. The doors open right over there at Christ United Methodist Church across from Medieval Times in Myrtle Beach. Take the time to make the trip. You heard Brian talk about holy hip-hop. It's for real. The phone number is real simple, 843-446-9491. If you can't make it this Saturday for the CD release party for No Better Life, take the time to come in on the 23rd, a big diversity celebration. They're having it back at Christ United Methodist Church. Free concert. It'll be a big opportunity. But this Saturday, you need to take the time. You heard him talk about it. All ages, all races, all sexes, everyone can take the time to be there. 843-446-9491. We didn't get to talk to him about some of the songs that will be performed, like No Better Life, obviously like Thank You and Rise Up. Take the time to come out and see a free live performance by some amazing locals that are making a difference every day.